I'm not sure I need a microphone, I'm actually very loud generally. So Sustainable Futures is a platform at the university, of which there are 4, that underpins environmental sustainability research. So we were effectively set up to recognise the University of Manchester as a world leader in tackling urgent and complex environmental challenges through interdisciplinary sustainable solutions. So they not only impact our research, but also our operations, teaching, and our future as a world and as a university. So the challenges we face are systemic and interrelated, and that's kind of why we have such a broad platform. And we need sustainable systems that don't only focus on environmental sustainability, but also on socio-economic sustainability as well. So that platform really underpins the research that exists within the university and tries to grow that research. And we're focused around these 6 different challenge areas. So resources looks at the finite and renewable resources that we have and use, how we can retain value from those resources and avoid any waste, so water, energy, materials. Resilience is very much focused around trying to future-proof ourselves against our vulnerabilities when it comes to climate crisis. Net zero is pretty self-explanatory, but trying to reduce our emissions and also look at how we capture
Guys, hi everyone here. How are we doing today? Great. Yes, perfect. Thank you so much for responding. Oh my God, I hate this name. Every time before my class at some place, get silent here. And I'm trying to bring this American spirit to the here at some point, different continent, but sometimes not so successful. There's a story we'll talk about later, but about my research specifically today, I'm going to talk about the NFT, Fintech, and Metaverse in general. So my research is technically a PhD in business management from the Fintech perspective of viewing cryptocurrency trading and NFT in general. So my actual research is in NFTs in China. Today we're not going to go into that because it's so much of a bigger topic. Not only politics, but also the economy and the culture difference and everything. I'm just going to go like overview of NFT, Metaverse, and Fintech and how we're approaching it from the business management point of view. And if you want to get into more details, feel free to Google me if you want. I do have some online lectures about this as well, which will be more into the details of what's actually happening behind it. So brief introduction of myself. Currently I'm doing a PhD at the University of Manchester at the AMBS. And I do lecture at the MMU and here, and also the University of Law as well, in business management, finance, and also some of the LLB courses related to financial crimes. So some of them might be relatable. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be more than happy to share some of the insights. And also in the meantime, I'm a co-founder in the GPR for Hamilton. It's a US, it's a startup based in the US, but currently we have 110 employees in general. So if you're interested into that, a lot of my students are very interested in an internship for the future, please feel free to reach out as well. And I'm more than happy to tell you more about what we actually do. But there are a couple of different opportunities that is available, because I'm currently doing PR for different companies as well, so feel free to just ask. Anyway, so going to the topic of, first here we're all researchers, we want to talk about the actual things. Firstly, I just want to ask, do you happen to know what is NFTs, non-fungible tokens? Does anybody want to give it a yes, please?
Can you give me an example of it?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So they are kind of like art pieces that you can buy that don't really exist, but you own them, but they're digital art pieces.
Yes, in some way, yes. Yes, absolutely. In some way, it's very, I think if you're viewing from the tangible things of what you're talking about, most of the time it does look like art. Well. But thank you so much for your contribution though. So non-fungible tokens here, fungible tokens for example, which is approached from the name, fungible tokens are normally the tokens that could exchange values from one to another, that is the exact same amount of value. For example, currencies. You can use, for example, Chinese currency, RMB, to the US dollars and exchange it with the exact same rate at that moment. Or Bitcoin. Or on blockchain, you have different kinds of coins, Ethereum or the Dogecoins. With 2 coins, you have the exact same value, and that is called fungible tokens. Non-fungible tokens basically means each of the token has a unique value of how much it is. So technically, technically, it's not decided by the market, it's not decided by anything, so each one of the tokens is different from one another. And all the non-fungible tokens, NFTs, exist, or actually fungible tokens as well, a lot of the digital currencies, exist on the blockchain technology. Do we happen to know what is blockchain technology in general? Or Web3 in general? No, not really? Yeah, yes, please.
It has several initiatives, but
Yeah.
from the way I understand it, it could be used as a decentralized database, it could be used for smart contracts.
Yes.
So it depends on what's the purpose behind using it.
Exactly, yes, it can be used in multiple purposes, exactly. So blockchain Web3 is basically this facility, this bunch of technologies, for example, the smart contracts, that is machine-to-machine transaction. So a lot of the time, for example, when we're transferred 1 million or $1 billion from one bank to another, it takes about a month for them to check, okay, these are the procedures and these are the policies. And then you can transfer where the source of the money. But when it comes to this sort of, for example, cryptocurrency trading, you could exchange $1 billion using the cryptocurrencies within 2 minutes, for example. It's a very short period of time, and also it's because it's machine-to-machine transaction, so there's no human interactions. And also in the meantime, government would not be allowed to interfere any of the transaction. For example, at the very beginning, a lot of the cryptocurrency trading has happened in ransoms. Somebody's blackmailing you, blackmail your computer and ask you to transfer this amount of Bitcoin to a specific account. When you report to the police are actually not going to be able to do anything because government can't interfere with these sort of transactions. And that's also one of the reasons a lot of the financial institutions or organizations or companies are promoting these sort of technologies because firstly, it's encrypted. Secondly, it's non-interfered at any external factors. And also thirdly, it can't really be stolen unless you know the password. And that's the only way for you to get access to the wallet as well. Going further from there, Metaverse. Do we happen to know what is Metaverse in general? Yes, please.
It's like a virtual space that's based on a lot of technologies.
Yes.
Like blockchain, AR, VR, digital twins, something.
Yes, exactly. That's very correct, actually. It is a virtual space that incorporates a lot of different technologies inside, and technically it's supposed to be, according to the concept at least, it's supposed to be a virtual and immersive experience of getting to this space. So you're supposed to feel like a universe, like right now we're in this 3D universe. And you're supposed to get into the Metaverse just like that as well. So the reason why I just defined these terms and everything, and also I'm realizing that I'm running out of time very quickly, is because these new concepts can all be explained through theories and where it's coming from. To understand the originality of these topics and then how we're going to understand it is very much generated through history as well. Of course, we're looking into the future, going on to, this is actually the method I'm currently using, the walkthrough method. These two are the screenshots of the interface for spatial, which is a Metaverse spatial application. The reason why I mentioned this specific method is because it's a relatively new method that has been introduced in digital sociology. So a lot of the time, business management or business programs are very much related to sociology and social science. And it's half related to the tech side of the digital architecture as well. Basically, walkthrough method, which was used a couple of years ago to analyze Metaverse into a relationship. What they do is they go through each step of the application. They take screenshots of it, and each step comes with the research notes to document how are the users experiencing, and how is the app govern itself, how do they balance the goal of organizing this app, and then how does it go with towards the end of the outcome for this app. I'll try to say towards the end, because we don't really have enough time to actually explain or go into the details of the actual research topic, which I'm more than happy to share in details later as well, is basically these all spectrums all have to come together hand in hand when we're discussing specific technologies. A technology, for example, from the social constructivist point of view, a technology cannot leave society to exist. So at the very beginning, sociologists would argue it is the human interactions that generate specific technology. For example, a bike is designed like this, for example, with a seat on it, because human needs to sit on it to cycle that way. Of course, from different perspectives, new materialism argues, which is another digital sociology theory, argues that materials are materials, and they're the origin of everything, but human are only a part of it. There are different theories you can apply. There are different theories you could listen to and try to apply to the current technology that is happening in this society. But towards the end of the day, we all need to work together and then come together to do this cross-interdisciplinary research to understand how the society works, how the technology works, and how to work it out in the future. All right, thank you so much.
So thank you everyone to be here today. It's always nice and encouraging to see people that are passionate about more or less the same topics that I am. Because for example, Ernestina did a brilliant presentation, but I know 1/8 of what you said. Because I am a clinical psychologist, so I know very few about technology anyway. So this is okay. So this is the work that I'm going to present you today, which is called Innovation Science, and it's the objective, the subject of this work is a framework that could digitally measure active mobility and mental health. As I said, I am a clinical psychologist, and my PhD is about active mobility. Active mobility can be defined as walking and cycling as a means of transport. So some people call it active transportation, some people call it active commuting, specifically if it's to go from home to work and vice versa. But nowadays, active mobility is not just moving from point A to point B. It's actually being recognized as a strategy for public health, especially when it comes to physical health. So for example, reducing the risk of cardiovascular diseases or diabetes, as well as for environmental health, because it reduces traffic and it improves air quality, etc. What is still uncertain is the relationship with mental health. So we know it's a form of physical activity, therefore it's supposed to be good for our mental health, but is it? My PhD journey started in 2022 with the goal of doing a systematic review of all the literature that had involved these two topics. And what I found was a mess. So the literature was very mixed. A bunch of methodologies, designs, and most of all, something that as a clinical psychologist I don't really appreciate is that all of this research was mainly conducted by a group of professional and scientists, but none of them had involved an expert in mental health. So how do you use tools about mental health without an expert that has studied and has been informed to do that? So my systematic review became a scoping review, which was published, and the results of this review actually brought me to the goal of the work that I'm presenting to you today, which was developing an evidence-based framework that could actually measure the mental health benefits of the active mobility, if there are any, because again, from the literature, what we could find is a very mixed situation. So I worked for 6 months with this Italian company called Step Looks, which provides an online platform as well as a smartphone app called Spark to measure the sport performance, so the let's say physical activity side of the walking or the riding, and paired with Apple watches or Garmin watches, anyway, wearable devices that could actually record these activities. My work with them was about adding a mental health feature to this app as well as the platform with evidence-based, so scientific mental health items that could measure people's mental health status at the end of the activity. So we conducted a very small pilot study, and I developed these infographics in Italian, which is where I'm from and where I'm doing my PhD, and in English because I presented this work just like today with international participants to the pilot study and conferences as well. To help the participants in the pilot study to actually follow the framework, because one of our main concerns was that it was a little bit too complicated, and participants only had 10 days to learn how to use it and do it as well, and provide us with the data. Anyway, what happened is that actually it worked. It worked in terms of improved awareness. So people actually said, I had no idea, or I had a very different idea of what active mobility was, and most of all, what its benefits are. And therefore, I am very motivated to integrate this activity into my lifestyle, which for us is a great success in terms of healthier lifestyle habits. And for us researchers, another great result was that all the participants showed and reported 100% satisfaction into using this tool. So it wasn't too hard or too complex as we thought. Well, looking at the future, we hope that we could share this framework with other researchers so that we all can do research on these crucial, vital topics in a proper way, bringing solid results that could be generalizable and that could involve as many people as possible, as diverse as possible. Also because, as the pilot study showed, just by doing research with this kind of interventions, people already are willing to change their lifestyle habits, which I think is important. And as an ultimate goal in my research is obviously, that's pretty much why today I'm here, to hosted by Sustainable Futures and Digital Futures, to bring to healthier cities, greener and built on us, on the humankind instead of on the motorized vehicles. Oh yes, I just added here on my slide the Warren Gregory's story. If you guys want to look up for him, he has a very incredible story. He is a USA man moved into the Netherlands. Something bad happened in his life, but it turned it into an amazing outcome. The Bible says something that I'm not going to spoil it for you. And yeah, thank you so much all for your attention and for being here today again. As I said, it's still a very ongoing process, so if anyone wants to get involved, both as a researcher and scientist or as a participant, please do contact me, LinkedIn, Instagram, my email, and I'll be happy to have a chat with you all. Thank you so much.
Does anyone have any questions?
I'll try it. I'm trying to figure out. Like, where are you doing this geographically? And do you think that there would be an impact if you would say cycling to work in Manchester, where our cycle routes are awful, compared to in somewhere like Amsterdam, where it's more prepared for it? What sort of do you envisage that there would be an impact on mental health from that side of things, and could that then be used to influence policy?
Okay, that's a brilliant question. Yes, also broad. No, but thank you so much. So the pilot study was conducted in Bologna, which is in Italy, where again my PhD is from, and however, another layer, I am from the south of Italy. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Sicily. I'm from there, and already between Sicily and Bologna, there is a huge gap in terms of active mobility and public transportation. And then again, from Bologna to Manchester, it's another planet as well. It's interesting that you said that you have a horrible route or something like that. Yeah. And for me, it's actually like a diamond of this city, because from where I'm from, it's a completely different scenario. So it definitely depends on a lot on the local situation and also on cultural barriers, because not everyone is really willing to get on a bike and ride to work for cultural reasons. So I think that what's really important is, as I said, is use this type of framework with as many different populations as possible, so that the framework itself can be tailored to where you're actually doing it. Because Yes, into the existing literature, there are some, for example, there was some research done in South America, I think it was maybe Brazil, anyway. And for example, active mobility was associated with happiness and with enjoyment, whilst the car was associated with more stress, but it was also associated with luxury. So if you can afford a car, then you go with a car. If you can't, then you go with public transport or with your feet. And that obviously has an impact on mental health, because I practice active mobility because I'm poor and I can't afford, to pay insurance for my car. And so obviously, as you were saying, that definitely has to be looked at from that specific perspective. Thank you. All right, thank you so much, everyone.
Hi everyone, I'm Sule. I'm a PhD student in the particle physics group. I will mention my project's a bit more obscure. I feel like we've had some really relevant talks, so please bear with me. So I wanted to talk about how we're employing sustainable computing in particle physics and how we're trying to reduce how much computational power we're using on our research. So I'll start with a brief overview of what we do and what the problem is, and then I'll kind of talk you through my project, which is how we improve the speed of simulations a lot. So when I say particle physics, our job is to kind of study what we are all made of. So you might have heard of atoms, molecules, protons, neutrons, or the recent, like 2012 Higgs boson, the God particle. And we want to study the properties of these particles and kind of how they behave and learn from it and to understand why we are the way we are. And the way we study this is by we bash them into each other, and if they have enough energy, they'll produce more of the rare ones. And if you're lucky, it'll produce, it'll produce the Higgs boson. And what you really want is just to see one particle, but what often happens is that it's producing all of the extra ones. So out of this entire mesh of extra stuff that's produced, you only want to do one. So in our context, what we do is we do a bit of simulation work. So we kind of see what the data is like, and we use this thing called Monte Carlo integration. So long story short, you can calculate the probability or the chance of one of these extra particles to be created. You generate a random number, and if this random number is smaller than the chance, you generate the particle. You do that enough times, you can actually get a very close representation of what happens in our particle accelerator and things like CERN. And once you've done that, we use it to compare it to the data you see at these accelerator. Where there are deviances, that's where our current understanding of the universe is not quite right. Anyway, I guess that's kind of just more of the context. I'll kind of highlight now what the problem is. So to do all of this research, we use a lot of electricity. And there's already how much electricity we use at the detector. We also have to study the data and manipulate it before we can get actual physics results. So these whole institutions are funded by governments, and they give us a certain sustained budget. So in this graph you can see this is kind of the annual CPU consumption. So this weird unit is like kilowatt hours, but this is 1 million watts per year. And this is just the time as of now. So based on our budget, we need to be inside these two black lines, but given 2027 is that close, we're already going to skip it. And we'd have to really do some aggressive slowdown, or else we won't be able to fund a lot of our projects. So like I said earlier, all of this simulation stuff actually takes up 17%, which is like a massive chunk of all of this, the budget that we have. So we are all kind of working on trying to figure out how we can reduce our computational usage in this scenario. So short-term solutions like this involve kind of studying the code, studying where the simulations take the longest, and trying to improve that. And that's what we call finding bottlenecks in the profiler. But the long-term solution is to use advanced computational tools like devices like GPUs to simultaneously simulate these things. So a lot of this is being done for particle interactions, and for my PhD, I'm working on how this can be applied to generating new particles based on probabilities. So I'll just give you a very brief example. So you start with, I guess, one interaction where I've had two particles interact, it's from the Higgs boson and nothing else. I say, what is my probability of a new particle to be generated? I generate a random number. If it's if it's lower than this probability, you accept it and you make a new particle in your code. On the off chance, if the random number is higher, you have to start the whole process again at a lower energy. And this is the problem. We have to do this again and again until it's accepted. So what we would do on a computer would be do the first one and then do the second one and wait until the second one is accepted. So one thing that I would like you guys to notice is that, you can see that although the paths are longer, you can see that a lot of these lines, or a lot of these steps are the same. And for that we can make use of GPUs. So what GPUs do is they split repetitive tasks and execute each of the steps in parallel. So it's originally for video games, but they're using data center for fast analysis and machine learning. And the best way to kind of understand this is that if you have to write like a sentence, you would use a pen for it. But if you have to write the sentence again and again and again, you can just use a stamp, right? You just stamp it on and it'll speed things up. So yeah, GPUs are this. While your computers have these things called CPUs, which have these very powerful chips, and it will do one specific task. These GPUs have much less powerful chips, but they can do all of these tasks in parallel. So my only suggestion was, as we saw that all the steps were the same, why don't we just turn off some of the chips where the new particle is not accepted, and just make the particle for the other simulation systems. And yeah, that's all there is to it really. And we wanted to see how much it benefits, and it turns out it produces identical results as before. And this is on a scale of 1, 10, 100. It's actually 250 times, 257 times faster, which means it's equivalent to almost using these 275 cores of a CPU. So to kind of bring it all into context, we compared how like one Intel chip would compare to one NVIDIA GPU. And if we're, again, just assuming it's going to take somewhere around 275 CPUs, and if an Intel Core has 16 chips inside, it will actually be much cheaper to have one GPU and a small chip than having like 16 CPUs. And most importantly, when you look at the power consumption, you're reducing this by 5 times. And if you do it this way, you're saving a lot more electricity. And again, going back to our original graph, coming back into that sustainable budget border. But yeah, this is all available online for people who are really into programming or into sustainable computing. And yeah, it's all open source, and the papers published as well. That's about it. I hope for some interesting people.
Does anyone have any questions for Sid?
Yeah, regarding about the CPU and GPU, and the last row about the power, it's 250 watt and this one 85 watt. You said this one is more consuming energy?
So the GPU definitely consumes more energy than like an Intel CPU, but you need 16 of them to kind of keep up with the GPU, and that is 85 watts would be around 1360. So that's how you can save your computational usage. So we're trying to say that if you have a GPU, you can use that as an alternative to a computer cluster, which uses a lot more electricity to run.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sid.